So let's talk more on security. We're joined on the program by Major General Henry Ayoola, former commander, Operation Safe Haven, joins us virtually. Good morning and welcome to the program, sir.
Good morning, Coyote. Good morning, viewers. I hope we have a beautiful day today.
Well, the day started with fireworks, General, and we apologize for keeping you waiting for longer than expected. But let's speak to the security situation, of course. And I want to piggyback off the president's nomination now of the former CDS, General Christopher Musa, as Nigeria's Minister of Defense, pending, of course, the screening and all of that by the Senate. I wonder if, for you, that will be a masterstroke, because the former governor and former minister Badaru resigned, and then we get this announcement. For a lot of people, they're not sure how to approach it. Is this good? Is this not good? What more can he bring to the table, different from when he was a CDS? But for you, how does this change things strategically when it comes to security in Nigeria?
Okay, once again, Kayode, thank you for bringing me on this morning. Let me start by saying, obviously, and I'm sure many Nigerians are celebrating this move, the appointment of our dear General Chris Musa is obviously a right step in the right direction. I mean, since this administration came on board, we all know that there's not been much input at that grand strategic level of the military establishment. So that will certainly bring a lot of good ideas on board to add to what is being done at the services headquarters. So certainly it's a good one. And we are hopeful that we'll see our dear General, and my congratulations to him. And my prayer for him is that God will grant him additional grace and wisdom to navigate and deliver on this assignment also.
All right. I think every Nigerian will naturally wish him the very best. General, I think every Nigerian will wish him the very best naturally. But let's maybe walk back. That's what we've seen play out in the past few weeks. It looked like there'd been that upsurge ever since the announcement by the U.S. president. Niger State, for example, over 200 children are still in captivity. The NSA visited and assured Nigerians that the children are safe. And there's been that simple question. One, the government is aware of the location of these terrorists. Clearly. In fact, government is in communication with them for the NSA to have said, well, they're in good condition. But time and again, there's always hesitancy to either rout them or even just generally prosecute them. So Nigerians see that these same bandits are responsible for kidnapping and killing are either being neutralized or they face justice. General, what may be the hesitancy from government, the cause of that, rather?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say a little further about why I'm so optimistic about the new leadership at the Ministry of Defense. General Musa will be the 14th Minister of Defense since the democratic dispensation we're in, and the 6th of those with the military background. And of course, the freshness in his own case of just leaving the defense headquarters, which, by the way, we are the only nation in the world that operates a defense headquarters separate from Ministry of Defense. It's supposed to be one headquarters, okay, just like you have the Pentagon and other nations, okay. But the good thing here is that whatever he wasn't able to do by the limited power he had as Chief of Defense Staff, we hope that with the higher powers, Honorable Minister of Defense, he will be able to do that. Now, the issue about hostage-taking, kidnapping, and how to deal with the situation is very delicate. You know, it's many-faceted, and I'm sure you will recall the School 1 incident in North Ossetia, where the Russian forces eventually brought the whole roof down upon both the victims and the villain. Nobody wants to do that, because, particularly when it's school children that are involved, you have to weigh all the options, weigh the collateral damages, weigh the unintended consequences, and see whether it's worth storming the place, or you have to, think of other options that are less, catastrophic, than that. So that usually is in the front burner all the time. If you know where they are and the children are still with them, that leaves you with very tight option as to how do you resolve, which method to use. Okay, so I can appreciate why, the government will have to tread carefully, and those who are handling the operations will have to continue to reevaluate the situation, And of course, in our case, we have never really been sufficiently preemptive because, we heard about this Safe School Initiative or Safe School project, and not much has happened in that line. So the advantage of early warning and preemptive action has not been taken. So that's where we are. So for me, that's what I understand why the government is, often pensive about going all out to attack the kidnappers wherever they are.
General Ayoola, you are a retired general in the army, so you would understand relations between the rank and file of the service chiefs and the superintending ministers of defense. And I'll put this in proper context. There were reports that the minister who resigned, had disagreements, an unhealthy relationship with his junior minister. Now, the new minister, former chief of defense staff, served under these two ministers. How does this change relations now that he becomes Minister of Defense, superintending over the ministry where, former minister served, and the junior minister, Bello Matawale? How does this change relations in terms of hierarchy?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a beautiful question. And in this situation, it's inherently so. But again, when you look at it, for us in the military, working with a leader is not an opinion business. It's not, you don't have a choice. Whatever hierarchy is established, when you find yourself in a teamwork, even in our own setting, sometimes your classmate could be the team leader. You submit to his leadership, you cooperate and collaborate to get the work done. That's the way we are trained. So I don't see any problem, because at any rate, don't forget, a lot of our politicians are younger than even most of the civil servants and public servants that are in place. It's just politics that trump them up, not because they are older or they have any better experience or any even kind of skills that put them in that, in that office in particular. So I don't think that should be a problem. In fact, we've had a situation, even in our setting, very recent one, when the retired general who was made Minister of Defense was junior to all the service chiefs that were on at that time. Just a recent one, under the last administration. We had that, but I'm sure it never had any quarrels among them, or you never had any charge against any of the service chiefs to say that they were not cooperating with the minister. We don't, basically in the military, we are trained to work as a team, because war is inherently a teamwork. So I don't think there should be any problem with that. Maybe that they could have such problem among themselves as politicians, but for us, the kind of training and regimentation we were, given, we don't have issues with submitting to authority and all of that. That's ingrained in our DNA.
We hope that is also ingrained in the DNA of politicians. Talk to us now about what differences you'll be expecting in the operational efficiency of the military. You know, it's been said that the former minister is a teacher, and in fact, I'm just seeing now that the Minister of State, apart from being a politician, is also a teacher. So now that we have an experienced retired soldier as superintending minister over the very important Ministry of Defense, what differences are you expecting to see in the operations of the armed forces?
Okay, thank you very much. Just to add a little to the last question. By the way, I served in that ministry. I was Principal General Staff Officer to the Minister of Defense. So I know how the office there works and how the minister, there was a time we had more than one Minister of State. You know, we had Minister of State for Army, Navy, Air Force. That was a time we had 4 ministers in that ministry. So the hierarchy is very clear. The junior minister, that is Minister of State for Navy or Air Force, where you have only one, usually it's for Navy, you know. That's how we have run our Ministry of Defense thus far. The work is just like a deputy governor or vice president. That's the way it's being run. And his schedule will be a function of what the senior minister, you know, delegates to him. So I don't think that, well, maybe because they are politicians and maybe they are colleagues and all of that, I'm not sure what must have been responsible. But statutorily, there should be no clash about that. I mean, it's like there can't be a clash between the vice president and the president because the roles are clearly stated, you know, statutorily. But so coming to what I would expect and what I would advise General Musa coming in there as the Minister of Defense, there's a whole lot to unpack. Let's start by looking at it this way. Like I said, I've been issuing my intro that the advantage I see here will be maybe there were certain ideas he had as Chief of Defense Staff, which he wasn't able to implement because since he was not the final authority, even at defense level. But now as the minister, he has you know, a wider access to the president, and at least he's representing the president on all the services, Army Council, Naval Board, and Air Force Council. So, of course, he has a whole lot of greater leverage to see his ideas sailing through. And, of course, having been at that apex of the military profession itself, there will be so many things that you can now find out. Let me give some example. For example, like the acquisition process, the procurement process of the armed forces, of the Minister of Defense. Now that he's the Minister of Defense, he can now sit down and craft a process and procedure that is almost foolproof, that will help the military to acquire platforms and systems based on thorough planning, based on a foresight and kind of contingency plan of look at the armed forces. What kind of war do you see the armed forces fighting in the next 20 years? Okay? Then maybe that would be medium term. Then maybe 50 years and project and see how do you acquire those kind of platforms, equipment, and systems in a progressive way. Not just buy things in one sweep, in a way, because that's the way other nations that, do these things. It's an open system where, defense contractors understand their roles, every part of it, every component of it, we understand their individual roles, and they'll be able to come out. That's something that's been long-standing for us. So I am throwing that to him, at least something that is not related to operation. I have a long list of what I've written about holistic security sector reforms. I'll try and get that across to him. But of course, I cannot share online, openly like this, about things that relate to operation. But at least things that relate to administration and higher defense management, there's a whole lot. There's a serious gap in the paucity of framework, instruments, tools, and structures for defense management, higher defense management. So that's an area he can really see that now, since he's not the one fighting the battle directly, he can, with his experience about where the problems are, he can craft so many things to deal with it. Let me give, for example, in American setting, I mean, we try to copy America and everything. They are in forefront. Even the issue of saying, oh, because somebody has a military background, so he's going to do well, is because we have not created systems. If we run the nation as a system of systems, you design a system to suit even a novice coming in, because all he needs to do is to follow the processes, procedures, and where his ingenuity will come in will be areas where he wants to improve on the current systems. That's how nations continue to fine-tune and get better and better and better in what they do. But where you don't have articulated systems, system of systems, system that goes from structure, from policy to strategy, to structures, to procedures, to processes, to drills and routines for doing everything in such a way that you craft a checklist for doing everything that that ministry has to do from start to finish, from buying a pin to acquiring a helicopter or aircraft or a ship. You have checklists so that whoever comes, it doesn't need to come with so much background experience per se, but if he's smart enough to be able to follow a procedure, a process, follow the checklist, and of course, after you are running it for a while, you do a review of what you made and see how you can tweak it and make it better. That's how nations run. That's how we are supposed to run. But we lack a whole lot of that right now. So those are areas I will suggest to him to begin to,
General, if I may comment,
and come up with something.
Yeah, my apologies. Yes. For want of time.
Yes.
I don't know whether we should also manage our expectations. We've seen what he did whilst he was at the reins of authority as CS. Now is at the policy level. It's not a one-man's job, as you've alluded to. So everybody's hand must be on deck. So maybe we'll manage expectations as well. But we're in a crisis mode, if you will. You understand this thing better than we do. But if it's not part of the things you think, let me put it differently. On governed spaces, border security, which he has proposed that we need to fence our border. He gave example of Pakistan and I think Afghanistan also, and he gave example of Saudi Arabia when it was CDS. He was pushing for the possibility of border fencing. Now, we just left off the conversation with one of the spokespersons of the president, which we have all identified that we're in a crisis situation. There's massive insecurity. And one of the major reasons is ungoverned spaces, porous border. What propositions would you have for him if you were to speak to him?
Okay, thank you very much. I also noted when he discussed those issues, one of those is outings. And strictly speaking, the issue of borders is not even, is not more of a Ministry of Defense business. That's supposed to be an interior ministry, well, with some of the other paramilitary forces and security agencies. So it's actually a unified kind of system that should address that. But, well, one of the things I think I loved about when he was CDS, he was able to carry along a lot of these other security agencies outside the military. I mean, I saw beautifully and admirably how he worked with the DGSSS and all of that. So maybe this is a better platform for him to do more of that and then be able to... I was privileged to lead a team to Turkey, not before I retired in 2015, to study and look at their border control and management. And it's a holistic system with an ICT backbone, with several monitoring centers and all of that. You know, and we submitted the report. It's there in the defense headquarters. I'm sure it could tell them to bring it up and look at it so that every component, because it encompasses the entire security sector, including even those that are not often seen as directly related, you know, the entire security sector. That's the armed forces, the police, the civil defense, the SSS, the NIA, the DIA, the customs, immigration. All of these components are involved, and the roles of each subsector will be clearly stated, and then we'll use one single ICT backbone. a network that is integrated. And like we have some emergency communication centers, where if you dial 112 right now, you will hear somebody will answer from the nearest of those centers. Now, if we use that as a start point and do some brainstorming and design a deliberate one, not a default thing that we've been running, a deliberate one that will factor all the, the connecting points, the junction points, and the critical points, and bring them into one holistic system, then that's a good place to go. So I think he can champion that with the kind of rapport he already has with these other agencies. Yeah.
Well, General, quite a number of things on his desk. Well, we'll see how the Senate handles the process, but clearly it looks like that is Nigeria's Minister of Defense. So we wish him the very best, and we have to thank you so much. There have been different comments coming through, particularly about your statement saying that, Nigeria is the only country that has a defense HQ different from Ministry of Defense. And they've given an example of United Kingdom and how things play out. So it looks like Nigeria must just find out what works for it and use it to its advantage. Major General Henry Ayoola, former Commander of Operations Safe Haven, also worked in the Ministry of Defense. So you come with a lot of experience. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, Coyote. And thank you for the good job you guys are doing there.
Thank you very much, sir. Well, we'll take a moment now, and when we return, there is more for you on the show. Stay with us.